Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today we're going to have a Guild Wars 2 video for you. It's our championship run, as I like to call it. It's in Queensdale, which is good because it's really an early level, especially if you start as humans. You don't have to be too high to accomplish this. Uh, I'd recommend, max level, obviously, for the area. A little bit higher doesn't hurt you either. It's a good place to really level up. But before we get started, I'm Fat Tire, and I'm here with 7 Foot Mexican.
What's going on, guys?
And he's done this a couple times. It's actually his footage from his thing, and I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. And as you can see, he's starting off with the troll. Where you catch up doesn't matter because you'll see in the bottom left he typed Zerg and they said Boar, so he kind of went ahead to the next one, and I'll let him give you the order of things here.
Yeah, so we started at the Vale Waypoint, and that's where the troll is. So you go teleport to the Vale Waypoint. You go ahead and take a right into this cave right here that you see. And because the Zerg said Boar, I went to the very next, champion in the rotation and waited for them to show up because it is a rotation, and I've seen people, flame and get extremely upset about a break in the rotation. So here's our troll right here, and I'll let you get Fat Tire get back into it.
Alright, and when you first get here, if you're actually the first person here, what I've been noticing is if you go to something called the Embedded Troll Runestone, that'll kind of get this started here. Usually you have, obviously, as you can see, a good group of people going in. This whole run, as you see, is champions. They're all gold level. They all got, decent, but it's definitely not impossible. And if
Commander Moose.
Commander Moose, exactly. But, I feel in this one, it's good to be ranged. How about you?
Yeah, I do like the range. At the lower level, that troll does a whole lot of damage, and if he knocks you down, he can two-shot you. This character is level 42, as you can see, and I feel much more comfortable with the rifle in the back, where all I have to do is dodge his rock toss, which most of the time isn't even aimed at me because I don't pull enough aggro.
Yeah, it's an important thing, especially when you're lower level. Most people here are probably 80s. There might be loot farming, but a lot of them just be trying to level up. And if you're not pulling the aggro, you can actually even get up close and do a lot more damage. And as you've seen here, probably less than 60 seconds, they've actually knocked this guy down. And how many is there exactly in this entire run?
There's 5 to 6 depending on when the Wasp Queen spawns. But I want you to point out right now how I immediately took off out the cave as soon as he went down, and that's because unless your character is capable of casting swiftness almost, non-stop, it's going to take you a long time to get over to the Bandit, which is our next stop. We just walked right by the Vale Waypoint, so this is going to be taking a left out of the Vale Waypoint for the Bandit. And with how slow my character is, you can see how I started in the front, and I'll slowly make my way towards the back. And the Bandit doesn't have a whole lot of hit points, so if you don't get there fairly quickly, there's a chance you might miss him.
As you'll see when we get to the Bandit, when you start, we'll show you, it's kind of at the top of the column, way in the back. But as you mentioned, as soon as you kill one of these champions, you really have to start heading to the next one in the order. You can generally follow them up, but the only one I think you can actually delay on will be the Boar, because I believe he's usually a little bit later than the rest of them, but as soon as that's done, the Bandit's up. As soon as the Bandit's up, it goes to the O-Cart. So the O-Cart, go to Spider. So you really, really, really got to be on that game. And I don't know if you noticed he had his inventory up. We'll get into that a little more in the future, but it's actually important to manage your inventory. We recommend, clearing it all up before you start this, because you will pick up a lot of loot, especially if you get stuck in a cycle. And it takes about 10 to 12 minutes, I say, to do a cycle, if you have a lot of good players.
About that, yeah. About that. That's about right. Yeah, and I don't know if you've noticed this already, but there's a Mesmer here casting swiftness pretty much nonstop, like I said, which is letting everyone get to the Bandit pretty quick. And I don't know if you. Another thing too is as soon as we got to the Bandit, we all started fighting. So the Zerg, some of the group is still running up, while a lot of the group is still fighting. So people are just throwing down those AOE attacks, trying to get their hit on them so they can get the loot. But one thing about this run right here, this is probably one of the fastest groups I've ever run with. A lot of the times it's going to be a little slower than this, so you have some time for and room for error. But a lot of this one is actually extremely fast.
Exactly. And then, as you'll see right there, he just went, and again, leaving, immediately going, you'll see. That's really one of the few, I think, you run from, other than the Spider of the Boar, is as soon as you're done with the Troll, you run to the Bandit on foot, because there's no waypoints. But as soon as you're done with the Bandit, you'll see that he hopped on and he took the Finney waypoint, I believe it's called. And then again, if you see that they're not exactly waiting for anybody, once they get fucking 6 people there, they're attacking because they're kind of impatient. So, I mean, if you're running behind, you're definitely not going to make it in time.
Yes. One thing or two things about the oak, just so you can get some dodging tips, because I like to attack the oak melee, which lets you vulnerable to his attacks, and he's pretty strong himself, but he's really easy to dodge. Um, Being mid-level like my character is right now, when he goes up like this, he's calling out binding roots, and uh, you don't pull enough aggro. He only gets so many people. So being low level, you don't pull enough aggro to be one of those people. But that SWAT right there does a pretty decent amount of damage and it knocks you back pretty far. So as soon as he lifts his forearm up, you know he's gonna do it. Just go ahead and dodge back, and it's really easy to dodge. You almost always have enough. What is it called? The endurance, I guess, to dodge once you or when he gets ready to attack.
Yeah, I don't know if you see that red ball in the bottom middle of your screen where that yellow bar is. That's his endurance. And if you're new to the game, obviously you may not know this, but you'll use that to dodge. Some people double tap in direction. A lot of people use the V key and then they use the direction. And you can use that to evade attacks. So like I say, when he goes up like that and he drops, if you evade at the right time, you'll actually avoid all of that damage. And you're getting actually an evade bonus. Sorry, an evade bonus, which will go towards like your daily count a lot of times and whatnot. And again, you'll see right there you finished, and you immediately cut over to the next waypoint. And I'll let you explain that from them.
Yeah, so the very next waypoint after the O card is going to be the Crichton waypoint. Once you spawn on the Crichton waypoint, you're going to be facing south. You need to go ahead and do a 180 face north and run up this hill. As I told you before, this Zerg is very fast, so running up this hill is the thing you want to do the most. And I actually believe that this Zerg is one of the Zergs who actually, throttles back for a second and waits for the rest of the Zerg to show up, because they know that a lot of people on the spider take a little bit of time. So yeah, we're up here. We're taking some time. Oh, nope, I lied. They went straight for it.
They tend to do that. I've seen some of them wait a little bit. Usually it'll be a lot of groups, or if you see a lot of guys from the same clan, it's kind of a courtesy thing to do. But there's people out there that they will try to screw you. But honestly, I've had no problems in Guild Wars with finding decent people to play with, which is a good thing. Oh, sorry.
Yes, it is. And I don't look how quick that spider went down. That spider went down almost immediately. So if you ever ask where the Zerg is at, and they say the spider, go to the Boar and wait there, because that spider goes down quick. And it's also not an event, so it's just 100% on loot. My inventory is up right now. Between the Boar and the spider is the most time you get, the most lag, because the Boar is an actual quest. You have to go inside the hunting lodge and start this quest. And it's by talking to this man right here, who's named...
His Lodge Master Carthage. I don't know if you see him, kind of in the gold coat there in the little left-hand corner that guy's talking to. And you talk to him, you'll actually start the quest. I believe he goes outside, and you may encounter 1 or 2 boars on his little walking mission. Nothing serious, usually one person will escort him. But you generally have about a minute. Yep, and you generally have about a minute for that goes. And again, as he's going through, he's managing his inventory, and that's very important. And I'll let him know exactly what he's doing, because this is his game.
Exactly. So when you go to the merchant here, I like to immediately sell all my junk, because that junk is just empty space in your inventory. And then I also sell the bags that you collect, because if you don't sell the bags, that's empty inventory too. It's something you can't sell on the Black Lion market. So now, as I'm running to the Boar, I pull up the Black Lighting Trading Company, and I start selling my other stuff that people actually request. And this is the time to do it. So I start selling the rares that I don't need. Start selling the most expensive stuff now while I have time. As I walk to this hill, and I know the image is blocked. I've been doing this for a little bit. But you come up to this hill, and you have like you said, about a minute and a half before the quest completes and the Boar spawns. So you just go ahead and sell absolutely everything. In a minute, you'll see that I'm selling so much stuff that I actually start getting errors. That happens to me quite frequently. I just wait, 10 to 30 seconds and start selling again. I guess it gives the system time to catch up with the sales and transactions you're trying to make.
Yeah, that's definitely something that happens a lot. Usually, I'd say about every 10 items I sell, I start to get that error message. I'll generally close out, go kill a couple things, and I'll end up getting back to it. But if you don't know, which, again, all the veterans obviously know this, anyone who's new doesn't, the Black Line Trading Company is the best place to sell your goods. You will always sell them more than you can at a merchant. That's how it's designed.
Absolutely.
If you go on there and you try to sell something for less than what a merchant will pay you, it'll actually give you an error. It'll tell you it's too low and it won't let you sell it. So it's a very fair system, so to speak, in what kind of a sort of fair system. But sometimes you go on there, as I believe you're telling me earlier, was this new Living World event where yesterday it was worth a bunch of money, today it's worth nothing.
Yep, just like a
But
stock market. So once the market fills up with a certain item, it becomes a lot less valuable because anybody can get their hands on it.
exactly, and right as you see, he's just working his way through. I don't know how much he sold, but he probably got about anywhere from 15 to 20 silver, which again, early levels is quite a bit of money. I don't think I made my first gold. I think I was like level 20, and I needed just to buy that first book,
Yep,
your
exactly.
training
So
manual, and then it was just
with this about an hour worth of this training run right now at level 42, I can get, well, actually at any level, about an hour's worth of this run, I can get one level and about a gold is what I'm averaging.
no.
People do a lot more. Somehow they've got strategies for a lot more. But here's this boar.
Yep, as you see, the boar obviously just popped up. The little, like I said, he has a little walking quest. It's not long. It's not very difficult, but as soon as it finishes, the boar will show up. And I don't know if we went over the wasp, but where the lodge was, where he went in the front area section, is where that wasp would appear if he
Yeah,
was there. And that's kind of that 6 he said, 5 or 6. Um,
exactly.
very
If we're looking
rare,
at the
but
screen right now, directly forward, if I was to walk through the boar and through the forest, that's where this wasp would be hanging around.
yep. And it's just another monster, which is good. Another champion gets you that experience. As you can see, you probably see his bar jump a little bit, but then again, it does kind of I don't know what you want to call it. It changes sort of exponentially per level.
Yes. The higher level you get, the more experience you get, based on whatever you're doing. So, you saw that bar jump. Actually, I think I just finished. No, that was actually a
No.
pretty decent quest. So I got a pretty good chunk of experience from killing that boar, and it's just because the higher level I get, the more I get. So the lower level guys, like the level 15 guys that are actually supposed to be doing that event, they're getting around, uh, between 500 and 600 experience, and I'm getting 1,000, almost 1,600 experience now from each event.
Exactly. And like I said, that was almost a whole bar there that showed up. Which, is obviously, when you get higher up, where he's at, that's always good. And a lot of people, what you'll see is level 80s doing this. When they get that experience, it kind of cycles over, gives them more skill points. But, it's a whole nother video we'll get into. But one thing I do want to mention that is the Shadow Behemoth at any point during this run spawns, pretty much everything will stop. I'm going to give you a fair warning. And you'll see it again in that chat in the bottom left. You'll see someone saying Shadow Behemoth SB or what's her name? The initial starting quest.
Brenda.
Brenda. If you see her, that'll be Brenda's starting, blah blah blah. That's kind of the quest for Shadow Behemoth. And everyone goes there because that's a mass champion, right? That's a big boss. You get a
Yeah,
mass
that's a
chest,
world
good
event
equipment.
boss.
Nope, you can take
Exactly. No, yeah, that's a world event boss. He's got an achievement for him if you destroy those 3 portals in under 20 seconds, and we've got another tutorial that explains that. But yeah, he's one of the very few bosses. I think every area has their own boss. Like there's the 3 dragons, there's the Shadow Behemoth that we're talking about. There's a jungle worm in the Celadon Forest or Caledon Forest, amongst others that are actually timed events. There's plenty of timers online that you can find to see when they're in their windows to activate. And these ones traditionally give the best loot and the most lucrative experience.
They do. Obviously they're fun, right? That's why you play this game. Big bosses, kind of these massive creatures you get to fight yourself up against. But obviously what you can't see right now is the timestamp anywhere on this, but I think you ran this in about 11 minutes. And again, the biggest waiting time you have is that whole boar mission waiting to start. So
Yes, and actually, once you get to the board, you're actually begging for that minute of downtime so you can sell your stuff, because you do that run 4 or 5 times in a row, and your bag is gonna get pretty full, and you're gonna want to, get rid of it and not want to miss the rotation. It's a lot better to get rid of as much stuff as possible at the board than miss an entire rotation having to go to a merchant.
exactly. And then again, you can skip one boss. It does make it a little tricky because you don't know when finishes, but you miss something like the Bandit because you forgot to sell your stuff and you have a full bag. I still wouldn't recommend selling it. Do the Black Lion chest and then immediately go to like the Finny Waypoint to fight the Oakheart, which would be kind of the next in the system, and just keep an eye out for when they show up. But a lot of times when you show up to like somewhere like Queensdale, just type in the chat, hey, where's the Zerg at? And everyone will know what you're talking about. For those of you who don't know, Zerg is basically that mass group of people that run around and, kind of get everything going there.
Yep, absolutely. I 100% agree. And I think that's the best way to handle most things in this level. And we hope you enjoyed our little go around of the champ rotation in Queensdale. Do not break the rotation, please. I've seen way too many people get overly furious at that, and it's just common courtesy to everybody. Let everybody at the same time enjoy the perks of having a huge group going around and getting free champions. Thanks for watching. I'm 7 Foot Mexican with Fat Tire, and this is When the Keg's Empty.
Yep. Have a good day.